Hello, everyone. In the previous session, we discussed the introduction to Python. What is Python? Application of Python, difference between IDE and editor, the difference between an interpreter and a compiler. And we have gone through the using the command line with the Python interpreter and how does Python deal with the RAM and so on, and the different types or the different data types of Python. Okay. And after that, we have gone through the reserved words for Python, variable rules, how to define a variable, how to use the names for the variable, and so on. And the numeric expressions or numeric operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and so on. That was all for the last session. Now we will go with our third session. Okay. Before we start our session, I'd like to add some points. The first point is that some were asking that they have difficulty using the Visual Studio Code, okay, and some suggested to use beginner IDE like Tony and so on. And the others were asking why do we introduce the command line and it was distracting. Actually, my points is that first, for example, for Visual Studio Code is one of the the tools that many development communities or developers are using. So I'm not just here sharing with you the knowledge about Python, but also I'm sharing the knowledge of programming, an overall knowledge of programming. So one of the basics is you have to know how to use an IDE like Visual Studio Code. So if I taught you how to use Tony, then when you go and for the real situation, no one is going to tell you to use Tony. So you'll be asked to use Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or Atom and other kind of editors. So far, Visual Studio Code, one of the best IDEs I have been using so far. So I think it's better to at least get familiar with such a tool, the benefit of using it, and because it also can be used with different kind of programming languages like JavaScript, web for web development, and so on. And it has a lot of extensions. So I think it's a great tool to be familiar with. The other point is the command line. Okay. If you know how to use Python, but if you know about Python as a programming language, but you have difficulties with the command line, this is also a problem. I mean, what's the use of knowing about Python, but you still have problems with the command line? Because as a programmer or as a researcher, you will be dealing with the command line a lot. So that's my point of teaching you about the command line. Even though at the beginning it may seem difficult, when I was learning about Python or I was learning about programming, one of the difficulties I was facing is using the command line, or the terminal. So take this as a chance to deal with the command line terminal and ask if you have any questions regarding that. I will just be teaching the basics of the command line as we go. Okay. And later we'll show you how to use the Visual Studio Code for the people who are facing some problems using the Visual Studio Code. Now we'll start with the third slides for the Python. Okay. In this session, we'll be discussing the use of input function or a function that's used to get the user's data. Okay. So far, we have been dealing with operations like addition, subtraction, defining variables, and so on. These kind of operations, so far we have been doing, or in the last session, we plug in the numbers ourselves. So it was a static code. So no one, the user, there wasn't a way for the user to enter the data unless you access the code. And this is not a practical way to do it. This is why we are introducing the how to use the user input is one. And the second, we'll be discussing how to use conditions like if else. So it is a way of making our code smarter. So the code will be making decisions according to a conditions we give it. So this is one of the benefits of using of doing programming after all. Okay. Now the input function is used to, as shown in the slides, is used to get data from the user. Okay. So if you want to, after all, your code or your program is dealing with the user. So you want to get something from the user to deal with the data, for example, the username or the user number, access code, password, and so on. The things that you see in most of the programs or software you have been dealing with. So for example, login. So for the login, you have username and you have password. Okay. So to do in Python, the way to do this is using what we call input function. Okay. So you define a variable that you will store the data it will receive using the input function. And after that, you can use that variable to do your operation and so on. Okay. Now I will try to use this input function. But let's start with a small example. Now, for now, I'll be using the command line. So we just start the command line normally. So as I told you before, if you installed Python correctly, you can just access Python using the command line, just like this. And now let's start, for example, let's say name. We define a variable, we call it name, and we use our function input. Now, the function input, it needs an argument. What the argument is, or the parameter we are giving, or the argument we are giving to the input function is a message to the user. So let's say, who are you? For example, this is a message. We put because it's a string. The message, after all, is a string. So you have to put it between two quotation mark or single quotation mark. So if we just write that and click enter, now the command line or Python interpreter is asking us, who are you? So the user will give us give the code, for example, like the name Alex. Okay. Now what happened? Okay, nothing happened. So as you can see, I just entered the name, enter, then nothing happened. Let's check that. You can see that now the variable name has already have the value, which is Alex. Okay, the name of Alex and so on. So if we try again, for example, like this, and write Alex, blah blah blah, and something. Yeah, and try. Yeah, we have the data. So this is a way to get that data from the user and deal with it. Okay. To put a good use of this function, let's try something like this. Okay. Okay. So I want you to do the following. Okay. Using the input function, let's try define a variable, call it name, a num1, sorry, and we will do as an operation. Operation will be that we will get a number from the user and do an addition process to it. So we'll get a number, for example, 10, and we'll add 2 to it. Okay, let's try that. So we'll ask the user, enter a number. Okay. So this is the message will be that the user will get. So for example, if we enter 10, okay, then let's do some operation with it. So equals, we had defined a variable called result, for example, and we use a variable and we add 2. Now, before we go any further, I want you to try that. I will be slow a bit. So I want you to try this code or this one. I want you to try it in your interpreter right now. Okay. I will wait for 3 minutes. Try it, and let's see what's gonna happen. And I will show you what's gonna happen in my side. So you have 2 minutes. If you face any difficulty, you can ask. I'll, I'll try my best to help you. Okay. I think 2 minutes is done.
Hello?
Yes.
Excuse me. I don't think is the answer for result equals num1 plus 2, 12? Or is there a function?
Actually, I think I'll show you now. You're supposed to get an error.
Okay, I'm getting error.
Yeah. So everyone, I think all of you got an error. Okay. That's what I want to clarify here. Actually, even though we entered 10 here, okay, and we just 10 num plus 2, so it's supposed to be 12. Okay. But this is not the case, and I will show you why. Actually, input function, so to keep that in your mind, input function, it will return a string. So when we enter 10, okay, the thing, the result that we will get from num will be a string. So let's try and get the num. Okay, do you notice that we have two single quotation mark here? We have single quotation mark. Yeah. So it means that if we try type, okay, and num1, type will give us the type of the data we are dealing with. So it's a string. So, and the error message, as I told you in the first session, when you deal with error, you have to write the error. You have to read the error, sorry. So you can see that type of error can only concatenate string, not integer to string. What does it mean? As I showed you before, one of the operations to deal with the strings is what we call concatenate, which is string, okay, plus string. This is what we call concatenation, okay. So this is what or operation we can do with a string. However, here we have an integer, okay. The error message told us this: can only concatenate string to a string. But what would happen here is that we are trying to concatenate a string with a number. It's not an addition process. It's not a normal addition process. Okay. Now it's a concatenation process. So how to solve this problem? Now this is a problem. So we want to get a number from the user, and we want to deal with a number, even though the input function all the time will give us a string. And one of the reasons for why an input function give us a string is that, as you know, as programmers or developers, we don't know what will the user enter. Okay, now you designed an app, or you designed a software that will be used by millions or billions of people. Okay, so you don't know which one of them, or any one of them, what kind of data he will go and put there. You know, some people will just, you will ask for his name and he will put a number. Some people, you will ask the user, for example, his number, he will put a name. So input function will make sure that the first thing we get is a string. So any kind of data in a string will not be changed. So we can, if we get, for example, 10, it's a string. However, if we, as a a software developer, or a software engineer and so on, if you write a code, you already know what kind of data you will be you need, or you should get. Okay, so what we are going to do, so if the operation or the process we are doing is, for example, addition, like this one, so the addition only happens with what? With numbers. You cannot have addition with the names. You cannot add a to 2. What does it even mean? Okay, so the way to make sure that we get a number, or to convert the string to a number, is to use what we call an int function. So the int function takes a string or a float or anything, and change it or convert it to a number. So let's try this one. You see that we don't have the quotation mark anymore. So now we have what we call an integer. So if we try, for example, let's say x equals, int 10. Okay, and we try type x. Yeah, it's not a string anymore. It's an integer. So how is this going to help us fix our error? Okay, now if we go back to the results, let's say, go here. What is it? This one. Okay, so results num plus 2. How to solve this problem? This is the function int. Okay, some of you already published how to solve this problem. Yeah, this is correct. So you can do it like this. This is the way also. So we have two ways. Either you have to use the end function for the whole input, okay, or to use this way. But I think it's the best is just to deal with the variable after the process, because now if we did this, for example, let's say num. Let's go to the input. If we did this, this one will give you the correct results. However, is that if the user entered a string instead of an integer, we cannot deal with the error now. That's why it's the best. It's best to do it this way. Get the number first. So even if he enters that, you can use the conditions if and else conditions we will discuss later to make sure that what you have is a number. After that, if you already know it's a number, you can do your operation. So your code will not break. Okay. So after all, this one is, we can say it's correct. However, in some situations, this one will cause you a problem. And when you are dealing with users that are going to use your software, users will give you a headache. So you have to take care of this kind of stuff. Okay. Well, now I showed you how to read an error code. So you can sometimes, even if you don't understand why you get the error. So if you read the message and you didn't get what does it mean, you just copy the message and put it in Google. Some people already face the same error, so you'll get a solution for it. Okay. Now we'll have let's try to do some coding using the input function and the previous operation we have dealt with. So let's go and close this one. Okay. So some people told me that they are facing a problem using the Visual Studio Code. Okay. The Visual Studio Code is like any editor. Okay. So it's at the beginning when you start with the Visual Studio Code, it's an editor like any editor. It doesn't have any functionality that it can be used as an IDE. But if you keep adding what you call it, if you keep adding extensions to it, you will be able to use it as an IDE, and it will be a powerful one. Okay, so let's start showing you how to use the Visual Studio Code, and if you have any questions, you can ask directly. Okay, so let's go to the Visual Studio Code. So this is the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now we have Visual Studio and we have Visual Studio Code. Okay, Visual Studio is a great tool, but the Visual Studio is mostly used for enterprise companies and so on, and mostly for focused for software development. Okay. However, Visual Studio Code is a great tool for beginners. Also, it's a great tool for people who are, dealing with many projects at the same time. So you can and you don't have that much of processing power or that much of or that powerful device or PC you are using. So Visual Studio Code is a light editor. Okay, so let's start the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so sometimes like one of the great things when you are using Visual Studio Code, it also saves or keeps the work you have been working in. So the moment you open it, will just open all the stuff. So just let's close this stuff. Okay, and now the moment you open Visual Studio Code, sometimes it will open the it will open inside your folder. For example, you can check this one here. So if you can, this one is the folder the Visual Studio Code is opened in. You can also check this one here. Okay. However, if you want to open Visual Studio Code inside another folder, you just go here, open folder. So file, open folder, and as I told you before, you have to create a folder for your job, any kind of job. So you have to make your job organized, have a folder, and for each project or each part of a project, should have a folder for it. Okay, so it will make your life easier. So you just now select a folder. The moment you select a folder, it will open your folder and will show you the files you have in your folder. Okay, let's close this file for now. Save. Okay. So one of the basic thing regarding the Visual Studio Code is creating a new file. Okay, and you also opening a file and so on. So if you want to create a new file, Python file, you can do it this way. Either you just click here, new file, or here, new file, or Ctrl N. Okay. The moment you create a new file, it will be created like this. Okay. If you choose a new file here or here, it will be created like this. This one just, a blank text file. It doesn't have anything. Even if you save this one, so let's try and go and save this file. You can just click Control S. Okay. So it just plain text, just a blank or plain text. But what we want to write is a Python file. Yes. So give our file a name. Okay. Let's say, for example, what we are going to do input. Okay, because we are trying to deal with input now. Okay. Or exercise. Okay. Now, one of the notes you have to take care of, or one of the things you have to notice is that when you have multiple words, don't use a space. This is not correct. Okay, this is not correct. Second thing, don't use what you call union code languages, or don't use other languages like Arabic, Chinese, or any other languages that has unique characters, because sometimes the computers have problem dealing with, or some operating system have problem dealing with this kind of character. So we'll stick with the standard, which is the English language, and don't use spaces. So if you want to use a space, just use an underscore, like this. Okay, this is the name of the file. Now we are trying to create a Python file. So just type .py. .py is the extension for a Python file. So when you save your Python file, it should be like this: the name and the extension. Okay, and save. You can notice that the moment you save, the file already has the file icon has already changed to the Python logo. Okay. And sometimes some of you doesn't have the plugin for Python. So if you want to install the Python for plugin, the first time you try to create a Python file, it will ask you to install it here. However, if the Visual C code didn't ask you to install, just go to here, extension, and just type Python and install it. Just install. For me, it's already installed, this one. Python, lintering, debugging, and multi-threaded, and so on. Just install this one, that's all. Okay. And there are a lot of great tools you can use with, the Visual Studio Code to make your life easier during coding. Okay. Now we'll start with our exercise. No, okay. Let's imagine that we want to create a normal or a simple calculator in the terminal. Okay, our calculator will perform let's say, four operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, we'll create a simple calculator using Python. We'll ask the user for two numbers, and we'll do the operations. Okay. So first, let's define a variable which will keep the first number. So num1, or you can num1. Okay, and enter first number. Okay, this is the first one. Num2. Let's say enter num. Oh, sorry. Enter the second number. Okay, now we have to fix this problem first. Num1, num2. Okay, now I'll do the operations. Well, let's try to define a variable for each one. So addition, let's say num1 plus num2. Okay, then subtraction, let's write a simple one. Don't want to waste the time here. Okay, plus sorry, minus num2, and we have multiplication. So okay, num1 multiplied by num2. Okay, then we have division. Okay, let's say num1 divided by num2. Okay, now we have created or did the operations. Now we have to print the results to the user. So how to print the results to the user? You click print and just write so to make it more, yes. Okay, to make it more interesting, we'll show the numbers the user entered. So we can just do like this. And num2, then we say equals, then we give the result, which is addition. Okay, and we will do the rest for the same. We'll do the same for the rest. Okay. Okay. So then okay. Now we have a simple calculator. Okay. So now we already have our code. As I showed you before, there are 3 ways to run the code. First one, if you already have the extension, you can just go here and run Python in terminal. So if you can here, you can see here, we have run current test file. Okay. Run Python file in terminal, run selection line in terminal, Okay. Let's try and test one of these. Let's run current test file. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
In line, why did you write for division multiplication? There is a mistake, I think.
Wait.
In the
addition. Oh, sorry.
Second last line, you should write division and replace it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay. So we have, okay, everyone, I think is clear now. Okay. Let's try, for example, if we try run current test file. Okay. This one, it says that no test framework configured, blah, blah, blah. So this one, run current test file, it's not for you, but just a piece of information for you is that the test file that if you, for example, when you write a big program, you cannot test it yourself. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of work. So what mostly programmers do, they write the code or the software or the program they have, and after that they write a test code. So the test code will test the program. Is the program running correctly or not? So it will test each function and so on. Okay, this is just for your information. The second one, run file in terminal, we already know what does it do. It will run your code normally in the terminal. You can see here. So 10, 20, and so on. The third option, run selection line in Python terminal. This one, it's helpful if you can do like this, for example. You want to just run this line. So you just run selection line. Okay, it will run just the line you selected. Okay, this one if you want to test one of the lines and so on. Okay, this is interesting. So we can notice that sometimes if you try and run file in terminal, okay, let's see again. Okay, what happened? Sorry. For example, if you already run Python here and you want to get out, just click Ctrl Z and enter. Will get out. Okay. Okay, that's all. Now let's try run our code as we say previously. You just can run Python file in terminal, or just use this one, or we can use it the professional way. Let's say just use this one. So write Python and you the file of your name with the extension and enter. Now it's enter your the first number. So let's say 10. Enter the second number, just say 20. Okay. Okay. Now we have the operations. 10 plus 30, 10 minus 20, minus 20, and 10 0.5. Okay. And 10 multiplied by 20 is 200. Okay. Now our software is running. Okay. Does anyone of you have any problem? You have any problem?
No, I have a question.
Okay, go sir.
Yeah, in line 9, 10, 11, and 12, you wrote print num1 and then comma. What
Yeah.
does that mean? What's the function of the comma?
Okay. So, for example, if you want to write multiple, outputs in the same line, you can use just one print, command, and just use comma to separate them, to split them. So now this one is will give us the output of this one. Okay. And this one, plus, I want to add plus sign so the user can see the plus sign, this one. Okay. And this one is my output, my output from the num2. Okay. And this one, an equal sign I want, and this one is the output of my addition. Okay. So that's just this one. If you want to write multiple output in the same line, just you can use comma. Okay. Because the print function in Python, it will create a new line for you. For example, if I did it this way, let's imagine I just did it this way. I don't have the comma, but I tried to run a print again here, without the comma. Let's try this, for example. And if we run the code, then you can see that directly it goes to the second line. Okay, so initially the Python, the print function in Python will create a new line. There is a way to to make it in the same line, but initially it creates a new line. So the easiest way to do it, just use a comma, use the same function, and use a comma to separate the separate the arguments you are giving to the function, and that's all. Any question? Okay. Now let's move forward. Okay, now we'll start what I told you before. Let's make our code smarter, because previously we have to tell the code what to do, and it will just follow what we write in the code without any changes or any conditions, so on. So to make our code smarter, or decide according to conditions, we'll introduce what we call conditional statement, which is if and else statement. Okay. So basically, what a conditional statement does. So first, for example, you define. Let's try, the flow chart here. So we define a variable. Let's say x equals 10. Okay. Now we want to do an operation according to our variable here. So let's say now we are asking here. The question mark is asking, is x smaller than 20? Okay. So let's say it's x smaller than 20. Yeah. So is x smaller than 20? Obviously, yes. So it's smaller. If it's no, we can go to the other function here. So is x larger than 30? So if it's yes, we can, yes. If it's not, no. Okay. So here, x is larger than is x larger than 30? No, it's not larger. So there is a problem here. No problem. And we have the n. So let's try. We'll try to write this code, but I have to introduce some basic, Python syntax. Okay. Do you notice something here? We have some space here. We have some space here. Okay. Is this important? Do you think this space is important? Do you think this one is important? Okay. Most of the programming languages like C++, you don't care much about the spaces, because you are just using, two brackets, and you have a semicolon at the end. So you don't care. You can write the whole thing in one line, and it's supposed to run correctly. However, in Python, that's not the case. So let's try this. Let's try. Let's go here. Let's try the Python. Okay. So let's try write this code. If I tried x equals to 10, okay, then I write if x smaller than 20, and use that option. Now, if imagine that I don't know about Python, and I just write print smaller, okay, and enter. Directly I get an error. Okay, what does the error say? It's an indentation error. Okay, this is one of the one kind of the errors you will face mostly in Python. So in C++, we have the problem of semicolons. It's a headache for programmers using C++. Because you keep looking for a semicolon everywhere there. So that's a problem of C++. But when you go to Python, there is an error called indentation error. Okay, what does indentation error means? So here it says that you expected an intended block. Okay, what does an intended block mean here? Okay, let's discuss this. So initially Python, as we discussed previously, has the philosophy of readability. So it's easy to read, and it is a clear coding. So when you look at the code, you can understand this piece of code belong to this block, and this block belong to that one, and so on. So what does this expected and intended block? So it's when you write the code. So if you have a condition or a function, which we'll discuss later. So now I have a condition, which is if x smaller than 20 and do something. So the code that is going to to be executed according to the condition is supposed to be an intended block. What does it mean? It's supposed to be like this. After you click enter, you should have 4 spaces or 1 tab. If you know the tab button or the tab key in the keyboard, just click the tab. So it will give you 4 spaces here. Okay. Sorry, this 4 spaces, what we mean by indentation or an intended block. So the moment you do the indentation, notice anything you write, any intended code or in the indentation block will belong to this. So let's say smaller. Okay. So now this print smaller, blah, blah, blah. If I tried and I added another piece of code. So if you want to go to the second line using the terminal, you just click shift enter, okay? Because if you click enter, it will directly go execute the code. It's just a note. Okay, let's try write, for example, print hello or anything. Okay, so these 2 lines, okay, they are intended by a tab or 4 spaces here. Okay, this means these 2 lines are in the same block because they are in the same level here. You can see they are in the same level. Okay, so it means they are in the same indented block or the same block that's in or related to the condition here. So if this condition is true, this code will be executed. Okay, so let's click enter. Okay, you can see that the code has been executed. Okay, so which means that this okay, some people are asking, but sorry, we have to go follow a sequence of the program. Later I will discuss the error here. Okay, now we can see there is a space here or 4 spaces, which is the indentation. So this code, these 2 lines belong to this line. Okay, so smaller and hello will be shown, or these 2 codes will be executed because the condition here is correct. Okay, now let's try and okay. Sorry. Imagine that I write something like this. I did another indentation and I write hello like this. Okay, so I added 4 extra spaces like here. So now I have another indentation. Let's try this one. Okay, now we have another error. It says an unexpected unintended, a small indent. What does it mean, unexpected indent? Okay, the previous error, it says that expected an indented block. Why? Because we have the block, the condition to execute the block, which is here. So the Python interpreter expected there will be an indentation here and a block, an intended block here. So this one, which is this one, this indentation, then we have the code. This is the intended block. However, here we added another, indentation that wasn't necessary because we don't have any other block. Do we have any other condition here? We only have this condition. So anything that goes under this condition should be in the same level. Okay, this level like this. But if we go inside, it will cause another problem, which is unexpected indent. Okay, so this unexpected, spaces or tab, it's not supposed to be here. Okay, they are supposed to be in the same level unless there is another if function or nested if. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so let's go and try to write our code in the Visual Studio Code. So let's say here, let's create another file. Let's call lives.py. Okay, we'll define x equals 10, and there will be asking, is x is x smaller than, example, 20? Okay, if yes, print. Okay, one note, I have to, now the moment I write the code and I say x equal less than 20, and if I just type the two dots here, okay, and click enter, the IDE already knows what does this mean. Okay, so it will give you the indentation directly. So I have the indentation here. So let's go back and try again. So directly it will jump to the indented block. So you can just start writing. That's the use of the IDE, or the benefit of using an IDE. Okay, so let's try and smaller. Okay, now also because we are still inside the same level, it will go to the directly to the same level. Okay, let's so let's say we are in the same block. Okay, if I want to go out, just click backspace. Okay, now I'm out. So now I'm out of the intended, or I'm out of the block. So anything I write here will be executed. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with this anymore. Okay, so if I tried and print here, done, for example. Sorry, this one is for the other. So to run this code, you have to write the name of the code. You just click run this file in terminal. Okay, the code was executed. Even if this, for example, let's try and change the condition here. Okay, done. Okay, this code, which is outside the block, will be executed. Either the condition is correct or not. Okay, this is our condition for the code to be executed. But however, because this one is outside the block, or the condition block will be executed eitherwise. Okay, so now let's finish the rest of the code. So let's say try if x greater than 30, for example, and try print greater and print we are in the same block, and so on. Okay, so now let's say then done. Okay, now let's try run the code again. Okay, which one will be executed? It says that if x is smaller, so no, this one is here, this one is here. Let's try. Okay, so first we are asking Python, is x greater than 20? So we are telling Python, if x is if x smaller than 20, print smaller. Okay, and print this one. Okay, And also we are asking Python again. Okay, is x greater than 30? If it is greater than 30, print this and this. However, because x is equal to 10, which is smaller than 30, this one will not be executed. Let's try and change this one. Okay, save and run. So we have greater, we are in the same block, done. So which is greater. Now if we just try and write 20, what will happen? What do you think? Let's try this and run our code again. Nothing is executed. Why? Because x is 20. It's not greater than, it's not smaller than 20, and it's not greater than 20. It's not smaller than 30 or greater than, sorry, it's not greater than 30, okay? It is smaller than 30, but it's not greater than 30. So why does this, why this condition is not met? Why? Because we are asking Python if it's smaller. We're not asking if it's equal. So if you want to ask Python if it's equal, let's try this one. I hope I'm right. Yes. So we are asking if, is it greater or equal? This is way to do it, okay? Oh, sorry, smaller or equal. I'm keeping confusing you here, sorry. Okay. Now we have learned about the if statement, okay. There is also another statement, which is the else, okay. Imagine that you have two situations, either this situation or the other. That's the only two options we have, okay. So either it is smaller or bigger. For this one, we have what we call else, okay. So we have if x smaller than 20, print smaller. If it's anything else, just write bigger, okay. This is one of the conditions, okay. So for example, instead of this one, I can just write, because I don't, for example, imagine now, let's say I'm considering designing an app that will be used only for, let's consider this situation. I'm designing an app that will be only for users above 18, okay. Then I have to write my program, and they will have to have this function. If age is greater than 80, greater or equals to 80, I will do what? You are, let's say, allowed. Now, I don't know about the other ages. Do I have to keep track all the others? No, I just else print you are not allowed here. That's all. Okay. So our condition is that the age is 80. So if age is greater or equal to 80, you are allowed. Else, just you're not allowed. Now, if we try the code again, sorry. So you are allowed because it's 80. If we go, for example, 60 here, you are not allowed here. Okay, this is one of the uses of it. Imagine that I have extra condition. Okay, let's say your age, let's say here is greater, small, for example, age, but I want, if the user is equal to 80, I want to say something else to it. There is a condition called elif, which is else if, okay? So you can have multiple else if here. So else if, I want to say age equals 80, I will tell him print, let's say you are almost there, okay? So let's say, okay, you're not allowed here because 60. Let's say if he is 80, we'll print this one. You are almost there. So this condition is not executed because this condition has been met. But if I tried if, like this one, and we try to run, this is also correct. However, let's say, now we have if, else, if. Now this is correct. So you can either use this one or this one. But if you have multiple if, else, then you have if, then if, it's better to use f, lf, which means else if, okay? if you have a specific condition you want the user to meet. Okay, I think that's all for conditions. Now this table is to just summarize the operations we've been using. This one is, I think, easy, but to just remind you how to use them. Okay, let's say, okay, so we have less than operator, which is mean like we are asking when we use the operator, we are asking, is 1 less than 2? Yeah, correct. Is less than 0? False. Okay, that's what we get. So we are asking, and Python will reply. So when we say if something, we are asking, is it true or false? So if it's true, it will execute the code. If it's false, it will not execute the code. That's all. Then we have the less than or equal. Okay, so let's say 1 is less than or equal 1. True, because it's equal. Okay, and the other one equal to, greater than or equal to, greater than, and we have not equal. So let's say 1 not equal 1. False, but 1 equal 1. Sorry, 1 equal not equal 0. True. So this means not. So this, if we say equal equal, this means equal equal. So we are asking this now, because now we have something called x equals 1. This means we are assigning an a number, or we are assigning some data to our variable. However, we are asked, if we use two equal signs, means we are comparing. Here we are assigning. Here we are comparing or asking Python to check this one. Okay, that's all. That's all for the operations. Now I already showed you how to use what you call it, yeah, if else conditions. Now I will give you, let's say, 5 minutes. Okay, what I want you to do, if you remember that we already learned how to use the input function. Yeah, so let's go back here. We learned how to use the input function here. Okay, we can get two numbers from the user. Okay, and we can do some operation with it. What I want you to do, I want you to get two numbers from the user. Okay, and also you will ask the user for the operation. What does the user want to do? For example, you will ask you will ask, let's say, op and bot. Okay, what to do with the numbers. Okay, now you will get from the user the first number and the second number, and you will ask the user what to do with these numbers. Okay, so after that, using the if else condition, you will decide. If, for example, if the user says that he wants to do multiplication, you will give him the result of multiplication only. Okay, if the user asks you for summation, so you have to use the signs. So what I mean is that, let's say here, I'll leave this one for now. What I mean is that now, if I run the program, sorry. Let's okay. What I mean is that, if you can see here in my screen here, so if the user, you will ask the user for the first number, let's say 1, and the second number is 2. Now, what to do with the numbers? The user have to enter either plus or divide or minus. Okay, or let's say plus, minus, and multiplication. So, and according to the user choice, you will only show the result of that operation. Okay, that's the task. You have, let's say, okay, let's give you 10 minutes, and if you have any question, you can ask. Okay, you have 10 minutes to perform the task. Start now. Okay, now we will continue with the rest of the. Okay, now we are done for this. For the if else condition, we'll go with functions. Okay. Now imagine that as we, I showed you before that we have, pieces of, you have a code and you do some operation with it, and you have another code to do some operation with it. Okay. For, previous examples, we have done the code was very simple, very small, you can manage them. However, if you have big projects and you have repeated tasks, it will be difficult, to write just a code, I mean, it will be difficult to write the whole code in the same, line of, in the same, what we can in the same block. Okay, so it's difficult to just write the code or repeat the code. Some operations that, we have to, repeat the operation in multiple places or multiple places inside the code. So instead of, rewriting the code or repeating yourself, you use what we call, functions. Okay. So when we write a code there, why do we use functions? Actually, when we write a code, there are some repeated instructions, as I told you before. So if we have an instruction or piece of code that is repeated, okay, just write it in a function. How? I will show you now. Okay. And as a programmer, there is, very important rule you have to put in your head. Never ever repeat yourself. If you don't have to rewrite the code, don't rewrite it. Just put it in a function and use it. As a, if professional programmers, good programmers never repeat themselves. They just write the, they need the code in multiple places, they just write the code in a function or in a class and start using it. So for now, we'll be talking only about functions, and I will show you how to write a function. Okay. Now let's check some examples that uses a function. Let's check some codes. I think now I will show you some codes that have a lot of coding, and one of the ways to organize them is to use a function, so you can understand why we would be using a function. Okay, let's say sorry. So okay, let's look at this code. So this is one of the the codes that has a lot of coding. So almost, I think, yeah, 500 lines of code. Okay, so imagine that this kind of coding, and some operations are repeated. So like for example, like this this operation, it will be used in other part of the code, and this one. So these all are functions. Why do we do them this way? Is that if we want to reuse them inside any place in this 500 lines of code, we just can call the function and use it. We don't need to write all the stuff here just because we want to use them again. Okay, that's one of the main reasons we are using a function. Okay, so now let's go back to our slides. Okay, now functions. Sorry, a function is a snippet of a code. So this is if we discussed before, you know, block. What do you mean by intended block? Is this using these two dots and using four spaces? Now we created a block. So anything here is, you know, is inside this function or inside this block. So a function is that we have snippet of a code, some coding here that's are inside the function. So when we call the function, okay, we are executing the code inside the function. So if this is a function, if we call the code here, the function here will be executing this function, okay? So far, since, you know, the first session, we have been using functions. And the functions, there are, you know, two kind of functions so far. So we have built-in functions and user-defined functions. What do we mean by built-in functions? The built-in functions that when we have been using like input, integer, float, complex, and other kind of functions that you will be using when you are programming. What we mean by built-in functions, that functions that are built inside Python. They are part of Python. Okay. So you know, you don't have to rewrite them because they are already there. Like, you know, built input, end, float, and other functions like split and so on. We'll show you some of the functions that we can use later, built-in functions. Now we have sometimes the functions that comes with Python are not enough. We have some operations that we want to do ourselves. They're not there in Python, so we have to create them. So Python allow us to create the functions that we want to create. For example, a small example is that we want to do, for example, we want to have a code that do some simple operation like add. So I want to add two numbers. So how do we define a function? To define a function, we use the key, to define a function, we use the key def here. Def means we are going to define a function. So def is a keyword. After that, you write the name of the function, any name, and two you know, parentheses, and inside the parentheses you can have an argument. If you want to pass some data inside the function, you can have what we call parameters here. So this you know, the variables that we are passing here, they are called parameters. Now the parameters will be used here. So this one, when we define a parameter here, we can use inside the function, and we can, you know, pass arguments to this. So for example, when I pass one here, this one will be passed into the X, and this one will be passed to the Y, and I will show you how. Okay. Now, after we show the you know, the what do you call the construct of the function, let's try and write some functions. Okay. Okay. We'll try to write a function using the you know, the interpreter first. Okay. So let's try write this simple function. This one, we'll write this function. So to write function, first we use the keyword def, and we write the name of our function. Now our function will be doing an operation which is addition. Okay. So for addition, we want to add two numbers. So we will have to, you know, create parameters to pass these numbers. So let's say num1, okay, and num2, for example. And now we close the, you know, the parentheses. Now we have to start a block, because a snippet of a code that, you know, is a part of a function have to be in a block, okay, like this. So we use a space or four spaces, tab, just click tab, you will have four spaces, this one. So now we are inside the block. Now we can just write our code. So what our code is going to do, it's going to do a simple addition process, you know, operation. So like this, result is equal to, for example, num1 plus num2. Okay, that's all. Now let's try use our function. How to call a function? Just add num1 and num2. No, we have to pass numbers. So let's say add 1 and 2. Okay. Okay, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Okay, I just use the function, add 1 and 2, but nothing happened. Why? Well, when we write a function, the code, you know, the code that inside the function will be executed. The code have been executed now. If there is no error, the code is already executed. But we didn't, show the output. We didn't ask the function for the output. Even we try to, print the output of the function, we'll get nothing, none. Why? You can notice here I already added this one, which is called return. What does return mean? So when I write a function like this, okay, and I do the, sorry, okay, now the function did the operation, but where I have to send the, the results of my operation, it has to be sent somewhere. I can do it this way. I can just print the results, okay. So I can just print results, okay, like this, and I can call my function like this, and I get the results 3, which is the print function here. This is the way. Okay, we can, but imagine that we want to use this, results. So I can just do like this, and to get, to use this results, for example, I don't want to print them. I want to use them to do something with them. For example, add to them and so on. I will use what we call return. So what does mean return? I'm telling my function, okay, do this operation. After you do this operation, return me the results, for example, return me this variable. So what will happen? After the operation is done, it will return this variable to here. So the function add function, the object of add function, or the function here, will be equal to this. So let's try and run. Sorry. Okay. Now if I try to do the operation here, add, I get the output. But let's say I want, now let's use this add. So I want to get the result. So, and I want to do this with the result. So I can say add 1 plus 2, and I want to add the number to them. So this one, the add here, because I used return, so it's already its value is already the value of adding to these two. So num1 plus num2, result will be, for example, if we are using 1 and 2, it will be 3. 3 will go here, then it will be directed to here. So now if I click here and check the x, I have 4. Why? Because 1 plus 2, which is 1 plus 2, return to result. So 3, which is 3. The 3 will be returned to add. So this one is already equal 3. Okay, so 3 plus 1, it's 4. Okay, this is how to use a function. Okay, so let's try to create a more interesting function. Let's say, okay. Now, do you remember this, the operation we did here? So addition, subtraction, and so on. We can, put them in a function. So let's create some functions here. Let's say addition, add, which is x, y, and so on, or num1, num2. Let's say x and y. Okay. So you can see return directly, return x plus y. This is the way to do it. So what will happen? It will add them and it will return them. And you can say subtraction, so sub equals x and y. So return x minus y. Okay. So this is, we have already created 2 functions. For example, let's say also div x and y, and when, okay, return and multiply by y. Sorry. Okay, another function, for example, let's say x and y, so return x and y. Okay, now we have 4 functions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 functions, but there is an error. We forgot the keywords. So if you have no keywords, so it's not a function. So this is the keywords. Okay, never forget the keywords. If you don't have a keyword, it's not a function. Okay, which is the diff, which is diff means we are defining a function here. So now after we have defined our function, let's try and use them. Okay. Okay, and also never forget the 2 dots. Okay. So to use our function, let's say, well, let's say result equals to add. for example, let's say 3 and 4. Okay, want to print the results, we can print result and try run our code. Yeah, result is 6. Okay, you can also use, now you can use the, you know, the same function. Instead of repeating the whole thing, you can use this simple code. You know, this simple code, we can just use it again here. Again here, for example, after we did the first operation, we can try and do this operation, for example, 100 and 30, 100, 300, and so on, and we can print. Okay, result. So I have already used the function twice, but I only just write one piece of code. So this one, I can use it anytime I want, anywhere. So sorry, run. Yes, this one and this one. So this one I can repeat the, you know, the operation as many times as I want. Okay, this is what we call using function. Okay, so let's, okay. Now I want you to do, we have, I think, 10 minutes, okay? I want you, do you remember this one, this operation? We already did this operation, okay, this code. I want you to modify this code, go to this code and modify it, or the code or you write your own, and use a function. Instead of using, you know, the operation here, create the functions like I created here, create functions and use them inside the code here. So this code, instead of using this, you know, the operations directly, use functions. Okay, so it would get familiar with functions. In the next session, we will put functions in a good use. Okay, so for now, you have a task. You have, I think, 8 minutes to finish it. 5 minutes. Sorry, we have 5 minutes. Just use functions inside this code. Okay, go for it. And if you have any question, you can ask. So guys, do you have any problems? Do you have any questions? Okay, someone asked, how can one use else statement? Okay, as you can see here, this is how we use the else statement. So I can just use, for example, if, else if, and so on, and then we have else. So else is the, you know, the last option. For example, if we, you know, to handle the last or the unknown, okay, I can say that else to handle the rest of the any, you know, any conditions we will face. So I'm saying that if the age is, you know, less than 80, do this. If the age is equal to 80, do this. And any number, just do this. So this is the else. This is how to use the else, okay? So the else and when rule is that the else comes with if. So if there is no if, there is no else, okay? You can have an if without else. So you can have this, but you cannot have this. You will have an error directly, okay? Okay, let's say f equals the result. Okay, let's check some of the codes one of your friend tried, and debug the code. Let's see what's the error. So let's say here, okay. So this is the code, I think. Let's try. Sorry. Let's run this code and see what's the error. Say 10, 20, and what to do with this number. Let's say plus. Okay. The result is, oh, I think you can see the error here is obvious. Okay, we forgot something important, is that we didn't convert the numbers to integers. So you should use this num1 equals int num1, num2 equals int num2. Okay, let's try again. So
Supposed to be num_2.
sorry, 10, 20, and what to do with them, plus, for example. Okay, here it says, again, okay, 10, 20, and plus. So the operation is correct. The person who's used this code, what was your error? Let's see. Okay, the person who used this code. Oh, I see. I see. The problem is in the error message, I guess. Yeah, actually, this is not an error. Actually, the way you write the code is this is how it's supposed to be. You said that if none of the operation raise a value error, so you already asked Python to raise a value, an error message. So Python just did what you asked it to do. So it's not wrong. Okay. Okay, someone sent this code and is asking, is this method less efficient? Okay, let's see. Def, and SF. Actually, no. One of the things we focus on if we come to real programming, okay, aside from using function for small code, so in real situation, you will not be using a function for very small code because it's already small. So you need to know you to use a function. That's for every situation. However, the way you did it here, this is one of the ways to use Python for. Okay, you can use it this way. This is one of the ways to do it in Python, which is a one-liner, we call it one-liner operation. So you write the whole thing in one line. This way is good, and it's a great way if you are only having one line. So if you have only one line operation like this, yeah, you can use it. But if you have multiple lines, so if, for example, if you more one than line, if you have more than one line, so you cannot use this one. You have to have like this. But if you have only one line like this, you can use it this way. So this one is correct, and it's more efficient regarding the writing of the code. Okay. So Faisal is saying, I think it must show the error message only. Okay, no. The raise value error, they says that the operation must be of one of this. It is an error. Okay, so the Python will raise an error. It's not going to show you the value error only. It will show you also the this one, because this one is used by the track back, which is this one, or the a Python error tracker. So it should show you what's the error and where the error is coming from, because imagine when you are writing, you have very long code, and you just showed the error code, and you don't show where does the code come from, or where does the error come from. This will cause a problem. Okay, so how would I know from where to solve the problem? Okay, if imagine that I only have this one, a value error, the operation must be one of these. Okay, what does it mean? What does Python mean? I got nothing now. But if I read this, raise value error, blah, 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 and I go back. It's in line 20. I just go to line 20. I check what's the error here. And I know, okay, it's supposed to be this one and this one. Okay, that's why it shows you the whole message. Okay, I think that's all for today. Does anyone have a question? Any questions? So I think if no one has a question, I will end the session. Okay. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you for your listening and attention. Thank you for your attention.